The 1990s and early 2000s, the Attitude Era, marked a golden age that turned WWE into a global phenomenon. It was an era defined by wild, rebellious, and unapologetically controversial characters who changed wrestling forever. But when the lights dimmed and the crowds moved on, many of those once iconic names quietly returned for short-lived comebacks that few even noticed. From hardcore legends to rebellious icons, and even once upon a time stars chasing faded glory, they all shared one thing in common: a return lost in time. So who were they, and what really happened during those forgotten comebacks? Let's dive right in. Wrestling Sphere, go! Al Snow, the eccentric of the Attitude Era and his quiet comeback. Al Snow has always been one of the most unique personalities to emerge from the Attitude Era. His career stands as proof that a wrestler can blend technical skill, intelligence, and a deep passion for performance art. Before joining WWE, Al Snow made a strong impression in ECW and Smoky Mountain Wrestling during the 1990s, proving himself as a tough, clever, and highly skilled storyteller inside the ring. But Snow's talent wasn't limited to performing. He was also a devoted trainer who helped shape the next generation of stars like John Morrison, Cody Rhodes, Ryback, and Adam Cole. However, WWE fans remember him best for his madness. During the golden age of the hardcore division, Al Snow became iconic for carrying around a mannequin head named Head, having full conversations with it as if it were his closest friend. That bizarre image quickly became his trademark, helping him stand out in the stacked Attitude Era roster. While some saw his gimmick as comedic, Snow's ability to use that craziness to build an unforgettable persona set him apart. He didn't need championship gold to be memorable, just a plastic head and endless creativity. As the Attitude Era faded, Snow transitioned into training and commentary within WWE. Then, in 2006, when ECW was revived on the Sci-Fi Channel, he made his return. Yet this comeback lacked the energy of his glory days. Snow had become a veteran in a supporting role, often putting over newer stars like Test or Kevin Thorne. After only a few brief months, he quietly disappeared from TV once again, leaving behind a sense of nostalgia and unfulfilled potential. Still, Al Snow's legacy remains intact. He embodies the boundless creativity of the Attitude Era, a madman who understood better than anyone that in WWE, what truly makes you unforgettable isn't victory, it's personality. The Headbangers, the eccentric rockers and WWE's most unexpected comeback. During the fiery days of the Attitude Era, the Headbangers, Mosh and Thrasher, were never the most dominant tag team, but they brought a unique energy that fans could never forget. They started out with bizarre personas, from rebellious nuns to wild metalheads wearing short skirts and nose rings, a style that was weird, bold, and completely their own. Their rebellious spirit, chaotic energy, and crazy but real vibe made them stand out, even when they weren't on top of the division. In an era filled with extreme, over-the-top characters, the Headbangers carved their own place in WWE history, beloved for their fearless individuality and perfectly timed tag team chemistry. After leaving WWE in the early 2000s, Mosh and Thrasher seemed to have closed the curtain on their Attitude Era journey. But fate had other plans. In 2016, when WWE introduced its second brand split, SmackDown became a standalone show, and the company needed familiar names to reignite fan excitement. And so, out of nowhere, the Headbangers returned. No promos, no teaser videos, just a shocking reappearance on SmackDown that sent longtime fans into a wave of nostalgia. However, their return was far shorter than anyone expected. The skirt-wearing Rockers only managed to compete in the SmackDown Tag Team Championship tournament before being eliminated in the quarterfinals by Heath Slater and Rhino, who would later go on to win the titles. After that, Mosh and Thrasher appeared only twice more, including a brief Survivor Series match against the Usos, and then disappeared quietly once again, just as suddenly as they had arrived. Their comeback may have been short-lived, but it felt like a familiar song playing in a new WWE era, a reminder that the Attitude Era wasn't just about heavyweight legends. It was also about the weird, the wild, and the wonderfully offbeat acts like the Headbangers, the ones who made wrestling just a little crazier, louder, and more unforgettable. Brian Christopher, from Too Cool Spotlight to a Forgotten Return. When talking about the most electrifying moments of the Attitude Era, it's impossible not to mention the hip-hop dance parties of Too Cool and Rikishi. The trio, Scotty 2 Hotty, Grandmaster Sexay, Brian Christopher, and the dancing giant Rikishi, created a kind of magic rarely seen in wrestling. They could make the entire WWE audience rise to their feet, clap, and dance along to their infectious rhythm. In a time dominated by violence and rebellion, they brought joy, humor, and pure entertainment to the ring. With his bright smile, flashy blonde hair, and goofy dance moves, Brian Christopher made Grandmaster Sexay the heart and soul of the group, wild, charismatic, and full of life. But that spotlight faded fast. In 2001, Brian was fired from WWE after being caught attempting to carry illegal substances across the Canadian border. For many, that seemed like the end of his WWE career. Yet 3 years later, opportunity knocked again. In the spring of 2004, under Jim Ross's tenure as head of talent relations, WWE re-signed Grandmaster Sexay, giving him a chance to redeem himself and prove that he had changed. This time, he returned to Raw as a singles competitor, a new challenge and a fresh start. Unfortunately, things didn't go as planned. Without his two cool partners by his side, Brian's once-loved high-energy style no longer connected with fans. In a WWE that was becoming more serious and hard-hitting, his flashy, upbeat personality felt out of place. After a few quick losses to stars like Kane and Christian, Grandmaster Sexay was released again, barely a month after his return. Ironically, around that same time, Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty were holding the SmackDown Tag Team titles, making Brian's absence feel even more bittersweet. It would take nearly a decade before the legendary trio reunited in WWE for one final nostalgic moment, honoring their legacy and reminding fans of the joy they once brought to the ring. Though his 2004 comeback was largely forgotten, Brian Christopher remains forever remembered as the embodiment of fun, rhythm, and free-spirited energy, a true symbol of what made the Attitude Era so unforgettable. D'Lo Brown, the legendary headshake and a forgotten return. At the height of the Attitude Era, D'Lo Brown was a name no one could mistake. With his signature headshake, confident strut, and cocky swagger on the mic, he quickly stood out among WWE's sea of big personalities. But D'Lo wasn't just about attitude, he could really go in the ring. Despite his stocky frame, he was impressively agile, one of the few wrestlers who could combine power, athleticism, and charisma so seamlessly. During his peak, D'Lo made waves as part of the Nation of Domination, capturing both the European and Intercontinental Championships, proof that WWE once saw him as a true rising star. But as WWE evolved into a new era, D'Lo's spotlight began to fade. After 2000, his career slowly declined. He tried reinventing himself, teaming up with Chaz as Low Down, and later aligning with manager Theodore Long, but fans had already moved on. Eventually, D'Lo left the company quietly, leaving fans wondering how such a promising talent had slipped through the cracks. It wasn't until the summer of 2008 that D'Lo Brown made a surprise return to Monday Night Raw. After more than 5 years away, he made a strong impression with a win over Santino Marella, a promising start that made fans believe WWE might truly be reviving his career. Unfortunately, that momentum didn't last. D'Lo appeared in only a handful of matches afterward, mainly to put over newer stars, with no storylines or meaningful direction. Less than 6 months later, WWE released him again, and this time, hardly anyone noticed. Many fans didn't even realize he had returned. Still, that unmistakable headshake and signature swagger remain a lasting symbol of the Attitude Era, representing the confidence, charisma, and individuality that made that golden age so unforgettable. Gangrel, the vampire of the Attitude Era and his return from the shadows. Among the most bizarre characters of the Attitude Era, few were as unforgettable as Gangrel. He didn't need championships or 5-star classics. His entrance alone made him a legend. Rising from beneath the stage through a cloud of red smoke, chalice of blood in hand, with eerie gothic music echoing throughout the arena, the visual was haunting, mesmerizing, and pure Attitude Era magic. When the lights turned crimson, fans felt as though they were witnessing a ritual straight out of a vampire cult. Let's be honest, every old-school WWE fan picked Gangrel in the video games just to watch that legendary entrance again. Gangrel perfectly embodied the dark, supernatural aesthetic that WWE loved during that era. Though he never held a title, he made an undeniable impact by leading the Brood, the faction that introduced Edge and Christian, who would go on to become two of the greatest tag team legends ever. The image of the trio emerging from Hell's Gate, drinking from a silver chalice, and performing the infamous bloodbath ritual remains one of the most iconic visuals in WWE history. Thanks to that legacy, Gangrel was given a few chances to return to WWE, though few fans ever noticed. His first comeback came in 2004 on SmackDown, a brief appearance that nodded to his days under the Ministry of Darkness. A year later, he signed a deal to work in WWE's developmental system, wrestling in a few tryout matches in hopes of earning a new spot on the main roster. But the plan fizzled out quickly. In 2006, WWE re-signed Gangrel once more, this time intending to place him alongside Kevin Thorne and Ariel in the rebooted ECW brand. However, after some training in developmental and a single exhibition match against CM Punk, the storyline was scrapped. By early 2007, John Laurinaitis officially released him, ending Gangrel's second WWE chapter before it ever truly began. Even without titles or long storylines, Gangrel remains the most iconic vampire to ever step foot in a WWE ring, a performer who turned an entrance into pure art, proving that sometimes, one perfectly crafted moment is all it takes to carve your name into wrestling history. Test, from Stephanie McMahon's fiancé to a forgotten return. Once upon a time, Test was viewed as one of WWE's most promising rising stars. With his massive frame, icy stare, and powerhouse style, he had all the qualities Vince McMahon loved in a potential main event player. Test's career peaked in the summer of 1999 when he defeated Shane McMahon at SummerSlam, a breakout moment that pushed him into the spotlight. Not long after, WWE doubled down on his push with a storyline romance involving Stephanie McMahon, building up to a dream wedding live on television. But, in true WWE fashion, the fairy tale turned into a nightmare. Triple H crashed the ceremony, revealing that he had secretly married Stephanie, instantly ending Test's romance and sending him tumbling back down to the mid-card. In the years that followed, Test kept grinding but never regained his momentum. A string of injuries, including a serious neck surgery, forced him off TV, and eventually, WWE released him. During his time away, Test made headlines for openly criticizing the company, particularly for how it exploited the legacies of deceased wrestlers like Eddie Guerrero, which sparked controversy among fans. Then, in 2006, came a surprising twist. WWE re-signed him and assigned him to the newly revived ECW brand. This time, Test returned with a darker, more intense persona, a cold, arrogant, muscle-bound powerhouse. The reinvention initially worked. He stood out, competed in high-profile matches, and was positioned as one of ECW's top stars. But his resurgence didn't last long. After Royal Rumble 2007, Test suddenly disappeared from television. Less than a year after re-signing, WWE announced his release, reportedly due to a wellness policy violation. He was just 31 years old. His career ended quietly, but for many fans, the memory of that tall, intense superstar who almost became Stephanie McMahon's husband remains one of the most bittersweet and fascinating stories of the Attitude Era, a tale of promise, heartbreak, and what might have been. Henry Godwinn, the hog farmer, and a comeback few remember. If you watched WWE in the mid-90s, the image of Henry Godwinn, the burly hog farmer carrying a bucket of slop to the ring, probably still sticks in your mind. He was a staple of the New Generation era but also lingered into the early Attitude Era, appearing at WrestleMania 14 in 1998 and competing in the infamous Brawl for All tournament that same year. While never a top-tier star, his rugged charm, brute strength, and authentic country-tough persona made him a memorable character in WWE's colorful lineup of the time. Unfortunately, a devastating neck injury late in 1998 forced Henry to step away from the ring, seemingly ending his career. But in 2006, 7 years later, he made an unexpected return, one that few fans even noticed. Henry wrestled a few dark matches in Ohio Valley Wrestling and made brief appearances on Raw and SmackDown, giving longtime fans a short-lived blast of nostalgia. Later that year, WWE assigned him to Deep South Wrestling, where he teamed up with Ray Gordy, who would later wrestle as Slam Master Jay. The duo was introduced as a modern version of the Godwinns, with Gordy portraying Henry's long-lost cousin. While the idea carried a touch of old-school charm, it never gained traction. When Gordy was later repackaged and paired with Luke Gallows in early 2007, Henry Godwinn's contract was quietly terminated, closing the final chapter of a humble but distinctive career. Though he never reached the heights of WWE superstardom, Henry Godwinn remains a fondly remembered piece of the Attitude Era's tapestry, a throwback to a time when even a pig farmer could become a cult favorite in the wild world of professional wrestling. Jeff Jarrett, the comeback no one thought would happen. It's hard to believe that Jeff Jarrett ever made his way back to WWE after more than 2 turbulent decades. The last time fans saw Double J in a WWE ring was in the late 1990s, during a tense and complicated relationship between him and the company. When he left, Jarrett didn't just walk away. He left behind the reputation of a rebel, someone who gave Vince McMahon major headaches over contract disputes and a less than amicable departure. But in wrestling, nothing stays the same for long. Nearly 20 years later, WWE shocked fans by welcoming Double J back into the fold. In 2018, Jarrett was inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame, a moment few ever thought possible. Not only that, he also took on a backstage producer role, helping shape the new generation of WWE talent. His on-screen return came at Royal Rumble 2019, where Jarrett, clad in his flashy outfit and wielding his trademark guitar, faced off with Elias. The sight of the country singer from the past brought a wave of Attitude-era nostalgia. A week later, he reunited with Road Dogg, reviving memories of his glory days alongside the New Age Outlaws. Still, in a year packed with major storylines and shocking comebacks, Jarrett's return quickly faded from the spotlight. Even so, for those who lived through the Attitude Era, the image of Double J stepping through the curtain once more, guitar in hand, was a powerful reminder that in WWE, nothing is impossible. Goldust, the Golden Oddity and his forgotten return. When it comes to breaking boundaries in WWE, few did it like Goldust. Beneath the shimmering gold paint and bizarre mannerisms, Dustin Rhodes transformed himself into one of the most unique performers the business has ever seen. As the son of the legendary Dusty Rhodes, he could have easily lived in his father's shadow, but instead, he carved out his own legacy, bold, eccentric, and ahead of his time. Long before the Attitude Era officially began, Goldust was already pushing limits with gender ambiguity, mind games, and psychological storytelling that redefined what wrestling characters could be. Goldust's WWE journey, however, felt like an endless cycle of arrivals and departures. After leaving in 1999, he made several comebacks, each marking a new chapter in his ever-evolving career. In 2002, he returned alongside Booker T, forming one of WWE's most entertaining duos. Then, in 2013, he delivered one of the most emotional family moments in WWE history when he and his brother, Cody Rhodes, defeated The Shield. Yet, between those two high points lies a forgotten chapter, his 2005 return, when Goldust reappeared as a bodyguard for Jonathan Coachman. Yes, the bizarre one was briefly involved in a feud alongside Coachman against Batista, a storyline as strange as it sounds. The angle didn't last long. Goldust later appeared in the 2006 Royal Rumble and wrestled a few matches on Sunday Night Heat against names like Rob Conway and Gene Snitsky, before quietly disappearing once again. That comeback wasn't grand or heavily promoted, and most fans barely remember it today. But it remains a small, curious part of Goldust's extraordinary journey, a testament to a performer who constantly reinvented himself, no matter the era. Val Venis, the adult film star of the Attitude Era and his forgotten return. If there was ever a wrestler who could make Attitude Era fans blush and laugh at the same time, it was Val Venis. With his long hair, smug grin, and the iconic greeting, "Hello ladies!" He embodied the outrageous and risque spirit of late 90s WWE. While never a main event star, Val made his mark with a mix of humor, confidence, and over-the-top charisma, an image impossible to forget from one of wrestling's wildest eras. After leaving WWE in 2002, most assumed Val had hung up his boots for good. But few remember that he actually returned in 2006, in a short and quiet comeback that went almost completely unnoticed. Gone was the cocky, adult film star persona. This time, Val Venis came back as a seasoned veteran, making sporadic appearances on Raw and Sunday Night Heat to help elevate younger talent. There were no flashy entrances, no signature catchphrases, just a professional doing his job with experience and precision. After a few uneventful years, Val departed WWE for the final time in 2009, closing a career that spanned over a decade but faded out quietly. His return may not have been celebrated or even remembered by most fans, yet for those who lived through his glory days, Val Venis remains an unmistakable symbol of an era when WWE dared to push every boundary, and left an impression no one could ever forget. Every comeback is a small chapter in WWE's history. Whether it's glorious or quiet, each one deserves to be remembered. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any more fascinating stories from wrestling sphere.